Sharon, thank you very much for joining us. So let's kick off with talking about your career as an ICT educator.
Thank you, Paul, for having me. And yes, IT career for me. I've been in this profession for more than 40 years, so you can imagine it's an amazing feeling to be able to do what I love doing in this particular field and call it a job, a career. So it's been a long journey. I come from Fiji Islands, and I started in my early years of teaching. The Canadian government, being a developing country, donated computers. So I was an early year teacher. I was teaching chemistry, biology, physics, and maths to the seniors in school. And so when the Canadian government donated computers, at that time, early 80s, no one knew what to do with it. There weren't a lot of people who knew how to use it, and neither was there any curriculum or information on, to teach about and with the technology. So I decided, I had 10 years of teaching already, and I thought, okay, let me go back to uni and see if I can do a degree in this particular field. So first one was science, maths, and education. So the reason I decided to go was because what had happened was when these machines were given to the schools, the challenge was to get somebody to teach. And because we lacked, the only people who were qualified were like engineers or computer science graduates in industry, in the organizations, companies, specific to like for instance in the geographical areas, weather, those areas they were using computers, aircraft, those kind of things. So they were their qualification was just that.
Yes.
So when they were hired, when they decided, okay, for reasons they wanted to come, maybe it was the pay, I don't know, but they came into the schools. Mm-hmm. They lacked pedagogy. They lacked behavior management, mm-hmm. and all the intricacies of how a school is run.
Yes.
They had no idea, which is not their fault. It was where their career was taking them at that time, and they went in. So computer science at university was offered as in the math department or the math faculty at university. Yes. So it wasn't part of education. So mm-hmm. I saw a need. I'd done 10 years. I knew how to teach maths and physics and biology and chemistry. Once you teach it for a few years, you get the hang of it. So I think I was yearning for something which was dynamic and which was really interesting. I saw these computers and I saw the lack of use of it sitting in a corner, not being used. And I thought, okay, let me go and learn about it. So I went to university, and then they said, oh, you have to do computer science. So what's the difference? They had nothing to do with education.
Right.
It was still, computer science. But then I said to them, I haven't come here to do a computer science degree. If it is with education, I'd love to do it, but not otherwise, So it was taken to the council. I requested, so they took it to the university council.
Yes.
And they allowed me to do it not as a computer science, but as an information systems with education and as a Bachelor of Art degree. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I know it.
As an art degree. So never mind. For me, that was the first step.
Yes.
So I was the first student at university doing an IT and a education degree together.
Yeah.
So that paved the way for others to do the same.
Right.
So that's when we started having teachers in schools
Yes.
Who were allowed or were able to have a qualification in this particular area. It has changed now, but that was the start for us, and that was in mid 1980s. So you can imagine how things have changed. Actually, it was late 80s. That's what had happened.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel that is where it all began for me.
Yes.
So I went back into teaching computer science. I went to a very advanced school, international school, Suva. I say advanced only because it did not do the national curriculum.
Right.
They were teaching the Cambridge IGCSE, and then they rolled on to the International Baccalaureate.
Right.
And that had amazing programs in computer science and information technology in a global society, computer studies in the IGCSE, and that is where my journey began.
Right.
So I started heading the IT department there, the technology, which encompassed hospitality, the technical area as well, woodwork, industrial technology, all of that, and computer science. So I was so blessed to be able to start my journey in heading IT departments from there. So this particular going to uni, getting, really making my case, I actually had to make my case to do a degree that had education and IT together.
Right.
And I think it hasn't changed now up till now as well.
Right.
Teachers, now in Australia it's a different thing. You have, for you, a teacher to go into the schools, they must have an education degree, and they have a particular area of expertise that they need to do.
Yes.
So I think in Fiji it was very different. So as I said, my journey started there, and then I moved around the world. So at the moment, we live in Australia. It's our 5th country that we're working in.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, working in and heading.
What brought you to Australia?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the reason we actually moved away from Fiji was at that time the country was going through politically quite a few changes.
Yes.
There had been multiple coups at that time. We didn't go straight away, but I was hired by a American school in Hong Kong to head the IT department there. So I went, and we had permanent residence. When we lived in Fiji, when the chaos started, we did apply, but we didn't leave immediately because we had good jobs and we were doing a lot more other stuff that was helping the community. So we stayed, and we thought we will leave when we need to leave,
Right. Yeah.
So when this job was offered in Hong Kong to head the IT department there, which was doing the North American Advanced Placement course, that's the curriculum that they were running. An amazing program that it has. I taught the higher level computer science one, and it was just a brilliant program. They're very academic, and I did write the computing curriculum there for them as well. But so then we moved there, but we did let them know that if things are not too stable in Fiji, we will take up the permanent residency in Australia. We had it, but we will then physically move. So we did. It wasn't good, so we came to Australia then. And I have to tell you this, Paul, the amazing story about Australia. In order to get our permanent residence in Australia, the process is to actually get your credits for your through the membership into the Australian Computer Society.
Right.
And that's what I did. So more than 20 years ago in Fiji, I applied to the Australian Computer Society, became a member.
Yes.
And then I went. That gave me points into the getting into the country as a IT professional.
Right.
So it became. That was my my stepping stone.
Yes.
And also my push, which was enabled and encouraged by my membership into the Australian Computer Society.
Yeah.
And so we moved here and moved to Australia, again heading IT departments here. Actually became a head of school as well.
Right.
A private school. And then they call it independent here, right? Different country, different jargon.
That's correct, yes.
Every country you go to, there's a different term for for the same thing.
Yes.
So then so I headed the IT department here. I was then, there was a job, I was teaching at the Queensland Academy for Science, Math and Technology.
Right.
Teaching the higher level computer science, international baccalaureate, the IB diploma there.
Yeah.
When I was approached by a school it's part of the. It was started by Goldman Sachs. So they have Dwight London, Dwight New York, Dwight Vancouver Island, and they had started their first one in Asia, which was Dwight Seoul, which was in South Korea.
Yes.
So they rang me up and said, "Hey, we got a job here. As head of the IT department, would you like to?" And I thought, why not give it a go? Because I had heard so much about Korea and how the technology infrastructure was so good.
Yep.
So I did. So I did go and head the department there, and it was a brilliant job.
Right.
I learned so much. The infrastructure is crazy. It's just it is just amazing what they do, and I think I was able to. Not only develop myself, but also that is where I started looking at how I could, not me, but as a school, as an educator, and how I can leverage different connections, different partnerships with industry, and bring them into schools and bring them to the students. For them to learn, harness what the technology could do. So I'll tell you what happened. So next, our neighbors was a robotics company in the school that I was at, Dwight Seoul.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time, I was doing a robotics unit. I had written the curriculum for it, and it was at that school we taught the International Baccalaureate.
Right.
So we brought, so I went and approached the company, and I said to them, I'm very gung-ho in this kind of thing. I said to them, you are a robotics company, are you doing anything in education? And they said, we don't, but we'd love to work with you.
Yes.
So they were doing, industry. So it was in, companies that were using robots. In the manufacturing industry, in the transport industry, all those types of things.
Yes.
Hospitality and all that. But they hadn't been into education, which actually uses robots in every area, right? So I approached them. They were so happy, and guess what? They would make the robots, and they'll come and test it with my students. So we got this exposure of robots. As you know, Korea is very good with robots.
Yes.
They have this robotics festival, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So then they came to the school, and we were able to work with them in terms of the students learning, how the technology works, and I was able to do the programming, teaching them coding, and it was just amazing projects, learning how to complete projects using that.
Yeah.
So that's where empowering the students using direct links to industry was where it's also, it really paved the way for me from there. So when I came back to Australia, I really went full swing into it, working in that area big time. So
excellent.
It has really helped, I think, bring the college where it is today, my college here, and also I'm able to, through ACS, I think it has given me an avenue. So to be able to help a lot of educators, not only in Queensland, but nationally and internationally.
Right.
So that has been a real good journey, I suppose, for me. I've gained much experience in these roles, and from curriculum to planning the curriculum, implementing it, and ensuring also equipping IT labs, looking at designs of labs and things, looking at the IT infrastructure in schools in multiple countries. So. And including some very high tech like Hong Kong and South Korea.
Yeah.
So that has really, I think. But one of the things, challenges that I faced was, as a woman in these countries, heading IT departments.
Yes.
And being the only woman in the team, So it has come with these challenges. Sometimes, or many a times, you go into taking up the leadership role, and you have to, as I think it's more so challenging for women than it is for men. Leaders, like heading these departments, it takes you about 6 months or so to prove to them what you're talking about, that kind of thing. That's that's a reality. That's what happens. And I think with my experience in working in mainly all male areas or all male teams, has I've learned so much from them. I've learned to, I think, somehow think in the same way, because that has been my everyday. You know, I've worked with them every day for so many years.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the the hang of how they think, maybe, that kind of thing, and I'm able to approach it in that way. So it's helped me. I've learned a lot from them. They're very brilliant people that I've worked with, and then also I think I have contributed my side as well, to these teams. So that has been very, very helpful. And I think when I look at ACS, and I look at what ACS is able to provide, it's got a very solid policy on diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
And I think I'm a good example of them being practical about it.
Yes.
Like they have supported me, they have encouraged me, and at the same time given me opportunities to lead. So I think it's important organizations do that. So I always do go and say that ACS is a good example. Many organizations struggle with it. So I think ACS is leading in that area in terms of the policies they have in place. And I think the working environment is very good. I find that quite fun.
Yes.
At the same time, I learn a lot and I'm able to give back. So providing thought leadership has been a core part in the roles I'm playing.
So let's we've touched on ACS already, but and the fact that you joined ACS 20 odd years ago. So your journey with ACS, you're now an elected official, the head of the ICT Educators Committee. Tell us about your journey with ACS.
Yes, I know. I've started with it. You're right. It's been a tremendous learning curve for me, but at the same time, I enjoy the, like I said, you go to a place, you love something, and then you're able to work in that particular area, call it a career, but it's a piece of cake because you love it, right?
Do what you love.
And that's what ACS has made me realize. I think it has encouraged me in the potential that they saw in me, I think, and every step I've taken has been through the support of many people, and so as you've mentioned, I am the ACS ICT Educators Committee Chair, and I took over from Nick Tate. Oh, what big shoes! I've still got a lot to fill. I learned a lot from Nick. Nick was the president of ACS at that time, and a lot of support from him. We need leaders like that, leaders who really support the young people. I'm not the young people, maybe new people. The people who are coming in and really there for you when you need them. You've got questions. They know a lot more about the legal side of things. They know a lot more about the policies that the company has.
Yes.
Which we do not know coming from outside. So it was very, very, it's been a really cool journey that way. So you mentioned that I'm an elected member. I'm also a volunteer.
Absolutely.
So I actually wear both hats. I'm on the Queensland BEC here as well. ICTEC committee, as I mentioned. I also am on the members advisory board, and also on the technical advisory board as a representative. Here's the other role that I play: a country representative, Australian representative, onto the International Federation of Information Processing, that's IFIP, the Technical Committee 3, which is on education. And I have the joy of being the Executive Secretary as well for that.
Right.
And I've just come back. I was last week in Bournemouth in UK.
Right.
And we had our OCCE, which is the Open Conference on Computers in Education, which was there. And I think the brilliant thing is the topic that we had for this conference, amazing, because we are looking at digitally transformed education, right? So I'm sure it has been happening from the time people started recognizing digital in education. But the key question was, are we there yet?
Right.
Haven't we asked that question like 20 years ago?
10
years ago, 2 years ago? We're still asking. but maybe the answer is changing. I don't know. That's something that we had at the conference, and this is the kind of thread we had. But it was brilliant. We had brilliant speakers, keynote speakers, and then we had amazing presentations of research going out all over the world, globally. I think for me, another part was for the first time we had a teacher's session, and we also had a doctoral consortium for the first time in an OCCE face-to-face. And that was, it was good to see students, PhD students coming and presenting their research. So it's very valuable. I learn a lot, and I'm able to contribute Australia's part in what we are doing in technology in Australia. Right. And there are areas which they find that we are leading in. And I think, and there are many areas that they are leading in, the European side, because remember, it's the UNESCO program.
Sure.
And but that's where it started, the IFIP. And as you know, Anthony Wong is the IFIP chair, the president of IFIP. He was not chair, he's IFIP president, and he was ACS before.
That's right.
So Anthony's doing a brilliant job as well. So, having these going to these and, learning, it's important, representing Australia, taking what we have onto the global platform and bringing from the global platform back. One of the things TC3 has been working on through our representatives on the Informatics for All group, which is a European group. And what they've been working on is a computing framework for schools.
Yes.
Informatics for All framework, informatics framework. And it's a brilliant one. And it is something that I can take from there and bring it to Australia, which we can look at, because we do have lots of issues in the curriculums. I think in the technology, IT, ICT, whatever you want to call it, computer science curriculums in Australia. Remember, I've been working in the curriculums in, the GCSE, which is the British curriculum, the International Baccalaureate, which is a global one, started off in Europe. And then I've also worked in the American, the Advanced Placement, which is a brilliant curriculum as well. And then I came into Australia and I worked as a senior project officer in digital technologies at Education Queensland. So I have a view, and I've been working in curriculum, I have a view of what the curriculum looks like in these places, what works and what doesn't work. And I think there's a lot of work yet to be done or needs to be done in our Australian curriculum. The digital technologies and the digital solutions, ICT, all of these curriculums related to computing, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I find it quite sometimes painful, excruciatingly painful, as an educator who has been through quite well-established and well-developed curriculums, and then coming to a place where we find that we have so many challenges. There are many challenges, but at the same time, what are we doing about it, and this is where I think ACS has got a great role to play. And I hope through the educators committee, we will be able to. One of the things I'm very proud of, of our educators committee, is when I joined, we found that in Australia we lack data on digital technologies with teachers and digital technologies being taught in schools. So we actually rolled out a national survey. Oh boy, that was quite a task, because as you would understand, getting a survey out to the relevant people is a huge challenge. You don't know where it goes. In the schools, it goes to the secretary, maybe, whether it's pushed on to the right people. Some schools will say, no, we won't do it. Some sectors would say that we won't do it. So it's a huge challenge. But we were able to get data across Australia. And so we had a report that we presented in 2020, which was a white paper. And that was a general one on digital technologies in schools, right? When I say digital technologies, I mean the technologies, not the subject digital technology, but digital technologies, curriculum and non-curriculum, everything, right? It was a general one, that first one we did. So in the ICT EC, we decided we're going to do every 2 years, we were going to do a survey. Because of COVID, we kind of delayed it a little bit. And then last year we did the second one.
Yes.
And the second one we targeted towards teachers and, towards providing support for teachers in schools. So that was our aim, that was our target, which I'm very happy about. Very similar types of, response numbers and things. But at the same time, we've got data now, which I'm very, very excited about. The second survey, also, we are now working in partnership with the Australian National University, the Tech Policy Design Centre.
That's right, yes.
Yes, and they have, we've worked with them to get a report out. And so they got the draft report with their recommendations out. And I was invited to be part of the group. We had a workshop in Canberra week before last, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And this workshop was to look at to bring core experts, stakeholders, and get feedback from them on the recommendations. And so we had a good group of representatives in it. So now our next step is we've just received the tidied up bit after our feedback, and that's come back now. So now we are going to give our last feedback, or not, maybe not last, but next round of feedback, because we are looking at the paper to be used to create a policy paper for government. That is our goal, and to reach that is a big thing for us, big thing for Australia and in the education system, and especially in the IT area. It's the perception that we need to change, I think, and students doing these subjects. So we're looking at, in the areas of teacher training, IT teacher training. We're looking at resources. We're looking at professional development, and we're looking at raising awareness among parents. I'm very strong, I think, being on the ground at a school, you see, and especially being in the school environment or the ecosystem, I have seen how much of an influence parents have in the decisions that their children make, in the subjects that they choose in school. And that has a huge impact on where they end up, I think. So
absolutely,
being a parent myself too. I think the other area I also wanted to mention, which I really think is crucial, and I think ACS is doing quite a bit of, is, or rather, shall we say, advocacy for, is girls in STEM.
Right.
It's such a, being a female myself, and worked. I have 2 daughters and a son. My 2 daughters, they're adult children. One is a cybersecurity engineer. One of my daughters in a aero defense company or organization, and the other one is a digital technologies in schools in Sydney.
Right.
So you can imagine, I have had influence, with my daughters to go into this particular area, and I think parents need to be made aware that this needs, one, me as a parent making that impact, and secondly, getting these girls into STEM, into these areas, I think is very, very crucial. We lack that here. As I mentioned, I've worked in South Korea, I've worked in Hong Kong. I have found in my classes a lot more girls in my classes in the senior school than I see here in Australia.
Right.
So when I came in, there was all boys in my class. I worked at the Queensland Academy for Science, Math and Technology. And when I went into the school, one of the classes I had 29 students, 30 students, one joined later, was the IB higher level computer science class. All boys.
Right.
Absolutely all boys.
Yep.
Not a single girl in that school was in that class. And it just really, brought home to me how important it is for us to really work with the girls.
Yes.
So I came here to the St. John's Anglican College when I joined the school. I worked on some strategies. So I worked on, going in the senior level is too late. they've already made their decision. So you have the middle school where in 7 and 8 students, it's compulsory for them. But in the 9 and 10, it's an elective. They choose. So whatever they choose in 9, right? If they do very well, they just carry on with it. And if they haven't chosen technology or IT, they won't choose it in the senior level.
Yep, sure.
So you really have to sell it in year 8, 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So then I requested for me to go back and teach in these areas.
Right.
Coming down, because I used to teach senior classes, so I needed to get back in there and really get that going.
Yep.
So I started off, and when I started teaching and really encouraging the teachers in that area, we had, the following years, we had about 40, 60 girls, presented, which to me was a big win.
Yes,
because we had, we had, it's gone down. It's like a yo-yo. Some years it's a lot, and then the other years and there are many factors that contributed. When I talk to the girls in the school, they tell me, oh, it's a nerdy subject. We need to take that perception off. And I think the other problem is, or the other challenge is, they don't have it as a prerequisite to anything.
Right.
When they go to uni, the only thing, any area would be like if you're doing computer science, you would have a prerequisite. But not in other areas. Like you have, when you go into engineering, you go into aircraft, aerospace, you go into mining, physics is needed, math is needed.
Yes.
But nothing of IT. Yet you use so much technology in these places.
Sure.
It's a double-edged sword, like you have one side. If you have it as a prerequisite, you're going to get people, if they want to go in that subject, they'll do it.
Yeah.
On the other side is, right, you have it as a prerequisite, these kids don't like it, they don't want to do it, they won't do it.
Sure.
So it's kind of like it's a hard one to balance. So, I think another challenge and a solution for the decisions that are made is to educate the parents, because when we come to the 7th and 8th, when they come to the 8th, do you think it is the student making the decision when they do the choices in year 9? Right? Superficially we see that they will tell you, I made the choice, but you will see how the parents have influenced them. Do physics, do chemistry, do biology, do psychology, but they do not say do IT or do computer science.
Yeah.
And that is where we miss it, because what they end up saying, the parent says, even if you don't do it, it's okay. When you go to uni, you can do it.
Yes.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
And so it changes. So perception needs to change, I think. So that is when you look at the ICT educators program, that's what we're trying to do. And in order to influence them, we are also, apart from reaching out to the parents, ACS has done, ACS Queensland BEC started the Gateway to Industry Schools program, part of the government. It's a government initiative, Queensland government initiative.
Yes.
And it has really, worked well in our state. So what they do is they pair the school or partner the school with an industry that they're interested in.
Yes.
And that has brought the industry into the school, and I think there's a lot more of that needs to happen, industry in schools. That partnership, it's not us going to the industry, we've been doing that for so long. We've been taking kids for excursions, incursions, all that. Industry needs to come into school. That's very important. Needs to be visible, I think. So that's what I see.
Yes.
I think some of the things that I've been working on. So it's the industry, looking at parents, looking at the community in general. Another thing that I found, and that was something that I talked to John Omahi on the Deloitte report, the Digital Pulse, the ACS Digital Pulse the other night.
2023 Digital Pulse.
Yes, the 2023 Digital Pulse. And I asked him about, what about the careers advisors in school? Because they play a very crucial role.
Yeah.
Their perception passes on to the students and whatever they do in a school.
Yeah.
So I think there is a huge need I did ask him if they had looked at that, if data showed anything, and he said it did. And that was my take on it, is my experience in schools is, if you have a careers counselor who is very interested in hospitality, who loves hospitality, guess where most of the students will be signing up for or getting or inundated with information would be in that particular area.
Sure. Yes.
So I did ask John the other night, and he said, yes, it has showed up. And he said where the careers counselors were trained in IT and ICT, looking at industry, going out, where to get, and had networks in those areas, those schools had higher numbers of students doing IT degrees.
Right.
So it does, the correlation is there. So you can see that. So I think careers counselors, another challenge, another thing ACS, I suppose, could really work on is that particular area. Looking at the parents, I am looking at a parent portal on the Australian Computer Society website as well. That is something the ICTEC has written a proposal to the MAC to see if we can have that, because parents need a one-stop shop, a place where they can go. This is the cry from these students who have graduated and gone into university, and they come back and say, Miss, we didn't know where to go to look for this.
Yes.
And so this is something we can provide them one place where they can look for things which we can direct them to through that portal. We do have through the ACS Foundation, we have a STEM careers area. But I think we need a parent portal, for parents, not necessarily ICT, not necessarily in the ICT workforce, but all parents in all schools, which we can take out. I think it'll be really, really good. So that's my take on that.
Right. Yeah. So with that, you've touched on a lot of what I was going to ask next, and that is where you see the future for and you're very well placed to comment on this.
Thank you, Paul. I think how much time do you have? Like 10 hours? It's something I'm very passionate about, and I think ICT is on the right track. It's going in the right direction, because I have in the past, how many years, I've seen what has happened, what new things have been put in place, and we have a good direction, that we are going towards. So I do see areas in which ACS can expand. And I think that, when you look at, like, for instance, they need to expand their influence. And I think, what was it, the other night at the Digital Pulse launch, do you remember somebody who was speaking, and he says, I didn't even know about ACS.
Yes. Yeah.
You remember that? And that is not only his comment.
Yes.
Many people, that is the comment.
Yeah, that was a shadow minister.
Yes, and just imagine it's a shadow minister of our state.
Yes.
And this is something, we need to really work on. I think ACS needs to work on, is that expanded influence and awareness. And we need to really work on people inside the organization taking this message out.
Yeah.
Skill development is something, my pet peeve.
Sure.
Skills development. We lack teachers with, in schools. They are, many have been moving away because they cannot handle the curriculum. They're not supported, they lack resources. They're not supported with training. So, professional development, when it's in, if it is not a core subject, then you are down in the ranks in terms of, So there's a whole heap of factors over there. But I think that skill development is so important. I, as a head of e-learning, innovation and IT in my college, right across the college, it's and not only here, but in the many schools that I have been through around the world, you will find, you have a gamut of teachers. You have some who have no experience, and others who are very experienced. So you're working you cannot have a PD that is suited to just one group of people. You can't, like a whole PD of all teachers sitting and you passing this out, because some may be lost in what you're saying, and others maybe it's too, they know it all. So it's something we need to really look at. We need to, one, upskill our teachers who have been in the system for a long time.
Right.
They are brilliant educators there, but they are so scared. So in this junior school, when you do not have a specialist IT person, right, it's the classroom teacher that actually delivers
Has to
that.
teach it.
Yes,
Yes.
delivers the IT curriculum. And if the classroom teacher is not confident, doesn't know it, lacks knowledge, lacks the experience, lacks resources, lacks the not lacks, but whenever technologies are rolled out, if it plays up, it doesn't work, they give up.
Yeah.
So that type of thing is very important, providing that support for them, but also upskilling them. We seem to forget, we just kind of bring these new technologies and train people into it, but we forget to upskill them on the core.
Yes.
The core bits, like for instance the digital literacy skills. That's very, very important. So I think it's an area that I think Australian Computer Society can work with, and I'm really trying to work with the ICT EC, guiding them into this particular area. We're very excited about what we can do, and we are trying to do that. I think the other area is policy advocacy. That's a key area, I'd say. Global collaboration, which I'm trying to do with IFIP, and there are many other organizations that we can do the IP. There are many areas. IP is a big one with the AI and generative AI in play now. And who owns it, and the regulators, who's going to regulate it. So this is something we can collaborate globally and bring back to Australia and use it. And so ACS is in a key position where it's able to, through these partnerships that we have, and representation into these particular boards and organizations. The other area which I'm working on at the moment, and with IFIP, we've started we actually had a webinar on quantum computing, or you could call it quantum information science, or informatics, information science. And it is an area that is covered in the university in higher level, higher education. But I think with the rate at which things are going, I think it needs to come down to the school level. And I'm piloting a program in my school. I'm working with Grok Learning. Grok is providing free resources around the world.
Yes.
And so I think I piloted a program with them. My students gave them feedback on the quantum program they have. But I'm also in partnership or working with Deakin University through studies that I'm doing on a capstone project, and working on looking at a framework for computer. Is there a need for a framework in schools?
Yes.
So I'm looking at that, and also trying to see, it is a very difficult concept for students. I want to see whether they are able to grasp it at all.
Right.
To what extent can they grasp, and what sort of framework would suit them, their cognitive development, and also problem-solving skills and things like that. So I think it's an area that Australia can lead in if we do it early, if we get onto it right away. With the higher level, the higher education, I think it's good. I think industry has started in it. The government, the federal government has rolled out, is giving funds, also helping girls get into it, which I'm very excited about. Putting funding towards girls in STEM and in this in the quantum area. The other area I'm also very excited with, and I know ACS works with this organization, is the aerospace industry.
Right.
Last year at the ACS Queensland Summit, the IT Summit, we had the Gilmore Brothers or Gilmore Space Technologies organization or company represented a panel. We had a panel. They work with Griffith University. And it was very interesting to hear what they're doing, the young engineers that are really leading, and how they are now ready. They've not only just risen, but they're soaring, to become the leading Australian space launch service providers. They are at the present time, they are trying to launch the vehicles and also work on satellite programs. So they're looking at GSAT for the satellite, and Ares is the one that they're trying to, lift off soon.
Yeah.
So they've been given, it's going to happen at, again, Queensland, the Bowen Orbital Space, the spaceport in northern Queensland. And that's where they operate from. I remember I actually visited the Gilmore Space Technologies a few years, I think maybe 3 or 4 years back, at the Gold Coast. They have the offices there.
Yep.
And at that time, they were building their rocket, and I tell you, it was just, it was amazing. I actually climbed the stairs with, was it James? I think it was with James, and it was so good to just see. It was very exciting for me as an educator, and I think those kinds of companies is what our students need to look at.
Right.
This is an Australian company. It's not that big. So in terms of the history, we are a very new country in this particular field.
Yes.
You look at India, Russia, America, they are well ahead in this, whereas Australia is so new. Yet, we are, through Gilmore Space Technologies, we are going to be launching, into space. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And I want the students to look at, how this company is looking at hybrid rocket engines, for instance, and working with that to look at what is it? They do 3D printing. We do small scales in our schools.
Right.
But the engine of the rocket, they use a liquid rocket engine. So it's so fun. This is really fun for our students. So one of the things is when I came to Australia, remember I've taught in Hong Kong, I've taught in South Korea, I've taught in Fiji. And students there start learning about technologies and coding and programming quite early.
Yes.
And they get the hang of it. Their higher order thinking skill is very good.
Yeah.
And they're able to, they may not know it, but I have seen signs or evidence of computational thinking really top notch, really good with these students. So when I came to Australia, and they are very good, they know how technology works, and they know how the internal system of that technology works, They can use the technology and they know how to create it. When I came to Australia, our students are savvy. They know how to use it. Our weakness is the creating of the technology and how the internal systems of this works. So for that, we were the first school, St. John's Anglican College was the first school in Australia to actually roll out the B4s, which is the electronic component of looking at how the computers translate binary into denary and denary back into binary, how storage happens, how communication happens. So that's what we did.
Sure.
And we worked with Dr. Carsten Schulz. Dr. Carsten Schulz is a very prominent IT person, not only in Australia, around the world. He's the CEO of Digital Technologies Institute and our computer brain. That's the two areas that he works on, and he works with AI.
Yes.
And he works with the computational thinking, design thinking, and systems thinking, which we do in our schools. So that's an area. I think aerospace is a huge area that ACS has already started, with the companies, and I think the next step would be really partnering with them, bringing them into schools, which I think Griffith University is doing very well. Then looking at the tech sector, I think it would be, and I think it's working towards it, looking at LinkedIn or looking at the news that's there, the government papers that are being rolled out, reports that are coming out, and people speaking everywhere. Looks like AI is progressing.
Absolutely.
Progressing really well.
Yeah.
And I think we need to show dominance in AI. That is something our tech sector can do.
Yeah.
We do have, as we have a deficit, of digital, what do you say? There's a digital divide.
Yes.
Right? A huge digital divide. And it doesn't seem to be getting, smaller at all. So I think a lot of work will need to go into that. And I think we need to look at areas where we can. And I think AI, dominating in the AI, using the migrants that have come in and who are really good in this area.
Yeah.
I think ACS, that many of them are members of ACS.
Yeah.
There's an area that can be harnessed,
Yeah.
and in taking them into the schools, into the education system, big time. And I think it's something it's a good potential area for ACS to work with in the tech space. The other one is cybersecurity emphasis, I think, looking at all the stuff that's going on around the world, some good, some not so good.
Yes.
My youngest daughter, as I said, works in cybersecurity, so it's a exciting area. I wish I was younger and I was in that phase, the emerging professionals. I would be in cybersecurity big time.
Yep. No, that's
it's an area which is so exciting, and I think it's an area that can also be, I think our ACS has got credentials, in these areas, which is absolutely essential. They've got the CPs, so I think it's in the CTs. So it's important that we really utilize that and promote it and create awareness in the tech sector.
Yeah.
And the other one, I think, is the sustainable technology. We are, I think the work that I do in schools is ensuring when students are doing innovation projects, they're working on technology projects, IT projects, that it is always linked to sustainability.
Yes.
So it is always, there's an outcome, it is linked to a sustainable technology.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm doing, and I'm trying to advocate around not only in Australia, globally as well.
Yep.
And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to pick up the 13 United Nations development goals, Sustainable Development Goal, SDGs. Sure. And just, it's so easy to pin it, or to pick 2 or 3 and bring it into the classroom and say, okay, here's this, here's a project you're going to be doing, but see where you can fit this into, and how it can, and it makes your life easy as an educator because you've just directed them into an area of need that they can go and look at. So I think looking at sustainable technology, there's so many out there that students need to really go towards.
Yeah.
A key, all of this, as we're talking about it, where it can go, and I'm very thankful and grateful, and I applaud and congratulate ACS for having an ICT Educators Committee.
Yeah.
Not many organizations have that. ACS is purely technical.
Yeah.
That's how it started. That was how it was perceived.
Yeah.
But for them to have an ICT Educators Committee gives you an eye, there's an eye, and they listen. So when I'm able to take things, I sit on the MAB and the TAB, I'm able to take the view of the ICT Educators Committee and present it there,
Right. Yeah.
And that it has given me an avenue. I'm able to take it, and we are doing things. We are doing surveys, bringing them back. Influencing the government policies. So you can see how ACS fits into this.
Yeah.
And for me to be given the opportunity to do that is a privilege. I count it as a privilege, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So as I mentioned, a key component in all of these challenges we face is education. So is it educating the higher, in higher education, education in schools, education of the parent community, education of, careers areas, careers areas, and just making the general public aware. Awareness, creating awareness. I think people are more accepting now after COVID. COVID brought the use of technologies to the forefront.
Sure. Yeah.
Globally, and therefore that has really brought attention to it. And if we as ACS do not capitalize on that, we are missing the mark.
Sure.
I think it's very, very important for us to do that. So. So that is something influencing university courses. One of the things I saw, and I think Australia should take this on board, and I hope we as the ICT Educators Committee can influence ACS to take this to a policy level. Something I saw, and I really advocate for, is something that Singapore does at Nanyang University.
Yeah.
And this is related to teachers. Every teacher that graduates from that university, no matter which subject area, which discipline they're in, they don't have to be in a computing discipline.
Yeah.
More so other disciplines, right? So you've got medical, maybe you've got HAS, the humanities, you've got business, accounting, all of these. Any going in the education field, in their course they have a particular time. I think it's 8 weeks. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But like a set period of time. All of these students, graduating students, need to go into this course. They have a school for it.
Yes.
And it is a technology. They teach them digital literacy and digital technologies.
Right.
So they work with every teacher, no matter what subject.
Yeah.
And how apt is that when we see technologies in every discipline?
Absolutely.
Technologies are used in every discipline. So this is the kind of thing I think may not be exactly the same thing, but that's the type of thinking we need to develop.
Yeah.
We need to look at, hey, how about Australia creating something or influencing universities to have that type of program.
Yes.
Any teacher, any discipline goes through, what is it called? What is these exercise places you go to and, it's very concentrated?
The gym.
Gym. The gym, okay.
Right.
It's a crash course, maybe.
Oh, okay. Right.
A crash course or a... the concentrated one, something 101,
crash
that
course,
one, that's the course that they need to do.
Right.
So they all have to do it. There's no two things about it. You have to go and do that course for graduation. So you need to. So in other words, all the teachers coming out from that university have had this many weeks of digital literacy and digital technologies.
Yes.
Exposure, use, how to create. They've done that.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the pressure relief from the other side when these teachers are doing it in schools?
Yeah. So just to conclude, what would be your advice to somebody looking at entering the technology sector?
Yeah, go for it. I think you shouldn't be. They should not hesitate.
Yes.
They should really weigh, where technology fits in their life.
Yes.
Take a pen and take pen paper or on your stylus on your computers. Do the pros and cons, and you will find in order for them to take up technology, a student, a workforce, taking up technology. Excuse me. They will find. I've done it with so many young people. That's the other one I mentioned, the emerging professionals.
Yes.
That's another very important one that we are trying to mentor in the Queensland BEC and really build up the emerging profession, which has been very successful.
Yes.
And mentoring them is to, one, influence these young people to these types of events that are there.
Yeah.
Expose them to it, that's very important. But at the same time, get them to decide themselves that they want to go, and in order to do that, we need to influence them in a smart way. Get them to look at the pros and cons. Look at, first of all, sharing with them or saying to them, where do you use technology in your life, their daily life? Where is the technology in your work, in your jobs? And most of them will find in every job they do, there's so much is used. So wouldn't it be good for you to go into technology then? If you really are passionate about another one, do it as a second one, like have it, both. That's what we did with our children. Do two. And one of them is an IT one. So can you imagine, you would become so marketable.
Yes.
People who go into the iTech force or the technology force or IT force or careers, they have the upper hand because they are very marketable.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think I would encourage young people, to go into the tech. Not only young people, when we are upskilling,
Yes.
this is where we bring the matured and the experienced workers as well.
Yes.
Into this particular, into the careers. So I think we are out of just school students going into uni students going into the workforce. We are also looking at those who are already in the workforce and upskilling them, and for them to pick up. They may be in the medical field, they may be in the mines or whatever, but I was just talking to my neighbor the other day. He's in the mines and he works with technology, and he said, I'm going to do I said, go and do an IT degree, or even if you don't do IT degree, go and do something at TAFE, or and I was directing him, and he's very keen. But this is because of what COVID has done. It has forced people to use technology.
Sure.
So that is the kind of thing I would encourage young people to do, and also to be the leading force in Australia, to bring Australia up. Really improve what other countries are doing it. US is doing it. You look at India, China. Well, how are they doing it? They're using the people in their country, influencing them into these careers. And it's something we need to do, which I think we need to work a lot more.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for a very, very stimulating and wide-ranging discussion, and thank you very much for your time today, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Paul, and I want to thank you for this opportunity that you give. And as a fellow, I don't know, I laugh at it because we are so, being a second language English speaker, you take things very literally.
Right.
So when you say fellow,
right. Yes. Yeah.
So you can imagine, but I'm very privileged and very thankful to ACS for giving me these opportunities to advance in these areas, so that I can also make an impact and continue to make an impact in the lives of not only the young ones, but also the older ones.
Excellent.
Thank
you
you
very much.